Welcome back to the Out of the Park Developments YouTube channel. My name is Alex Murray, also known as AZ Axel, and welcome to tutorial number 10. We are continuing our season at this point as our Atlanta Braves test team and continuing the events list tutorials part 2 of this little group. At this point, we're going to be taking a look at the end of season events as well as the playoff and all the way until the end of playoff events that can happen that you might need to be made aware of. So let's dive into our game and let's resume our tutorial that we had in last time. Alright, so last time we had left off, we had gotten up to the roster expansion date, or had just gotten actually past the trade deadline date at that point. We've gone ahead and expanded all the way up to the roster expansion day, and by roster expansion, this event basically means your rosters go from the original 26 out of 26 players to a new high limit of 28 players allowed on your roster. This is something that has been changed in real life as of recently, and it is something that is still talked about a lot in MLB over the course of, well, I'm assuming it will be the next couple of weeks as the negotiations continue in real life our time. Now, you will be able to bring 2 new players up from your minors to be able to fill your team on this roster expansion date. This is a way for you to be able to kind of get some new people or maybe some potential playoff players involved in the mix just in case you want to use these people in your playoff hunt. This would be a good time to get people set up if you want someone who's going to be a pinch runner or a pinch hitter or a specialty pitcher. You would want to bring them up for this event right here. Let's go ahead and get back to our league history information or our league events list. Let's go ahead and go all the way up to the draft pick signing deadline. It's pretty basic and understandable. Basically, this date, September 9th in our game, is your last chance to be able to sign all of those players that came from our first year player draft. And you will want to make sure that you get all of those handled. All right? If you haven't signed anybody, they will become a free agent. Well, no, they'll go back to the draft for next year is what will happen. And you will potentially get a compensation. If you have it's a certain number of the top tier draft picks for the certain number of rounds, you will get compensated for some, but not all of them. In fact, I think I can find out really quickly here. If it's in the first 3 rounds, there's your confirmation. First 3 rounds, you'll get a compensation. Thankfully, as you can see, we have signed all of our players, and we do not have a problem with that. So we will go ahead and go on from the draft pick signing deadline to the end of the regular season, and then we'll talk about some stuff that happens at the end of the regular season in regards to rosters. So I'll see you guys in just a second. All right, we have made it to the end of the 2021 season, and as you can see from our standings, or our records, at the top of the screen, we finished 99-63. We finished in first place in the NL East. I am very happy with the team so far. We even made a couple of trades along the way to improve our chances of making it to the big show or the big dance at the end of the year. But as you can see on your screen, we have hit the regular season ends date. And what that means is we did get a couple of custom emails signifying the end of the season. One of them of which is setting your playoff roster, which we'll talk about in just a second. The other one, of course, is the end of the regular season, and another one announcing the playoffs and who is playing against who. We get a bye for the first week, as do the Milwaukee Brewers. So we will see who gets to play against who after the Padres and Mets, I believe, get to see who plays in the wild card game and who advances from that game. So we will be going up against the Brewers as our first playoff rival at this point. But I wanted to take a moment just to be able to talk about playoff rosters. Now, this is going to be something that's a bit different than your active roster. Playoff rosters are a restricted roster. You can't just add anybody to these playoff rosters. And I'll go ahead and read the information here in the bottom right-hand corner. You can read it along with me. Players are eligible for the playoff roster if they were on the secondary 40-man, which we can put up on the screen. So we have our active roster. Instead, I can change this to our 40-man. And we right now have 38 players out of 40 on our 40-man roster. So if they were on the secondary roster or the injured list on the day prior to roster expansion, which for us was 9/01/2021. If a player is placed on the 60-day IL since then, or on the 15-day IL during the playoffs, he may be replaced by a player who is on the active roster. Moves are not allowed when a playoff series is in progress, so you will want to make sure that you get these rosters set before you move forward. Otherwise, you might miss out on a very important player being involved. For example, we have been using Jonathan Lucroy as our new catcher after Travis Darno, I believe is how he was pronounced at this point. Someone in the chat corrected me last time. Thank you so much for doing that, by the way. But our main catcher, Travis, went down during the last month of the season, and we brought in Jonathan Lucroy to try to cover him up in that situation, and he did a good job of covering for Travis. Unfortunately, Jonathan was not on the team before that 9/01 cutoff date, so we are not allowed to take Jonathan into the playoffs with us. We are going to be stuck with, of course, Travis, who has since then come back to being healthy, and the backup of Jeff Mathis. So that is going to be our catcher situation. So just a good example right there of making sure that you put people on your list that you need them to be on before you get past the roster expansion. Another prime example is we added on to our list on our 40-man Terrence Gore. This is a very popular choice by a lot of different teams. They will add Terrence Gore to their 40-man rosters before the trade deadline. This allows them to add Terrence to their playoff rosters as a pinch runner if they wanted to be able to do so. And because we have so many good hitters, we had no one to do pinch running. We have brought Terrence Gore onto our squad to be able to act as a backup pinch runner. We've also done something similar with Yolmer Sanchez, who's going to be our backup infielder. He can play second and third for us in case someone gets hurt, but also in case we need someone to be able to come in and do a good job on the defense. So, this is how you do it. There's playoff roster here on the left. Players eligible is on the right, and you can see some people are injured. Camargo went back down with another injury. Sabotka's on the injured list. Max Fried, unfortunately, went to the injured list right before playoffs began, and there's 2 weeks left on his injury. He could come back, I believe, for either the World Series, probably just the World Series at this point. So we'll see if we make it that far, guys, with our team. But otherwise, this is playoff rosters. All right? Now, we have been told that we were able to add 2 players to the playoff roster. I have already done that. All you have to do is drag and drop players from one to the other if you want to be able to drag them onto your playoff roster if you'd like to. That's just how easy and simple it is to be able to do this event and everything that comes with it. So, the last thing we're going to cover before we get into the off-season, which we're actually going to be putting into a part 3 video. We'll be doing more about off-season events down the road. So we'll do the end of playoffs. I'll let you guys know how that goes, and that's where we'll end this tutorial. Alrighty, just wanted to give you guys an update about the end of the playoffs. Unfortunately, as you can see on your screen, we did not advance to the World Series. We did get past the Milwaukee Brewers 3-1, but then we did fall to the New York Mets and the pesky Jacob deGrom in 6 games, unfortunately. The Mets did go on to win the World Series in our test example of a single-player game of OOTP. They won against the Toronto Blue Jays 4-1. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial about the league events that happened during the course of a regular season. We will have a whole bunch more tutorials for you guys down the road talking about the off-season and a couple different topics such as scouting and I believe finances are going to be some of the things we'll talk about next. So stay tuned for more tutorials right here on the OOTP YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one.